Welcome, Dana, to the Root of Our Health. It is such a pleasure to have you on the show. How are you this beautiful Saturday morning?
I am doing so well, and I'm so excited to be here, Elizabeth, sharing with your community and having this conversation. So thank you. And it's a beautiful day.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And can't wait to dig in. But first before I do that, before I, get into your background, actually let us know about who you are. And let's dig into a little bit more of the background and what you do and why you do it.
That's such a great question, Elizabeth. And let me, if we are so many different things, right? As women, we play so many different roles. And so I think it's always helpful just to preface who I am in the world with my family and my work. And so, I was a social worker by education. I'm a mom with 5 children. We left the U.S. in 1997 with 3 very young daughters and moved to South America. And we were in South America for 10 years. And while we were in South America, we adopted 2 children in Brazil. And that factors very much into who I am because I've spent a lot of time, raising my family, coinciding with starting a life coaching practice when we were living in Brazil. And that, when we adopted 2 children, Elizabeth, I wanted some support. And we adopted in 2003. And I had a really good friend who had entered the coaching practice. Mm-hmm. And she said, I think that I can help you with this transition using coaching tools. And so I decided to hire her. And it was so transformational that I decided I would do my life coach training. And so I started my life coach training in Brazil with Dr. Martha Beck. So I came back to the US to do my training. Life coaching was a different beast back then. Mm-hmm. It wasn't really well known. And Dr. Martha Beck is really I feel like she's like the mother of coaching. She was one of the first really well-known coaches. And I did my training. And then I started working when we were living in Sao Paulo as a life coach. And then, fast forward, we moved to Switzerland and we were there for 6 months. And then we moved back to the US. We repatriated after being abroad for 10 years. And I continued my coaching practice. So that's, it really morphed because why I am here today has so much to do with my own health crisis in 2011. I had a health crisis, and if you want more detail, I'm happy to go into it. But just to give you the umbrella, the high view of it. I had ended up in the emergency room because I cut myself. Fast forward, I ended up with a pacemaker because the electrical conduction.
And this was in US, right?
This was in the US. It was in 2011.
Okay.
We moved back. We repatriated at the very end of 2008.
Okay.
And so this is a couple years into our repatriation. And I had been very, very tired, but I found myself in this situation where, I have a pacemaker, but I'm still so tired. I really don't feel any differently. And that took me on a very introspective journey of learning. Why was I still so tired? And what were the root causes of my fatigue? Okay, my pacemaker is now pacing because I have a pacemaker. The electrical conduction of the heart is now pacing. But I'm still tired. And I started learning. And I eventually found an integrative doctor who was able to help me discover some of those root cause issues. And, we created a strategic plan, and I really started this 2-year healing journey. And so, in terms of my coaching practice, I became really interested because of what I went through in helping people through their own healing journeys. And that, I ended up studying functional nutrition, and I added that. So I layered in different modalities to my coaching practice, including HeartMath. I was already an aromatherapist. And that's really why I'm here today, is because it really is what I know to be true in my own experience and working with clients is that you really can turn, your chronic diseases around, and the healing capacity within the mind-body system is really incredible. It's infinite when we tap into the deep well of wisdom that lies within. And when we clear some of the pathogens and the dysbiosis that accumulate in the system. And, that's why I'm here, is my own experience. And then that professional background in terms of coaching. I've been in the coaching industry for 17 years.
Wow.
I think 17 years since 2007.
Okay.
It's not 7. I don't know if I'm not doing my math very well. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. I'm right there with you.
It's insignificant, really.
Everybody's doing things on their fingers, maybe on their phone, like their calculator. Like, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you so much for, going deep into who you are, your journey. I do have obviously some questions going into that. When you started your life coaching in Brazil, were you at this time, because that was 2007, right? So were you at this time virtual, or was it only like local Brazilians that you were life coaching?
Actually, I was working, I did have a few virtual clients. Now, everything has changed so much, and I was working on Skype with virtual clients, but I was working locally as well with expatriates. I had a few Brazilian clients. So it was a combination in terms of how I was working.
Interesting. So did you see like a different dynamic of who you were serving in Brazil versus the US? Was there any differences, or was it just usually the same?
That's such a great question. This is what I have experienced, that the external situations might be different, but all the internal work, it's all very similar. I am still using the same foundational coaching tools that I started with. And it doesn't matter if it's a health crisis. I mean, I have a new client who came to me wanting to learn how to fuel herself from a food perspective. And I knew it's not just going to be about the food. It's never just about the food. And sure enough, it's not just about the food. And she's just kind of blown away of, oh, there's so much more to this. Yeah. So I'm still using, even though I might be working working with somebody on their health, those foundational coaching tools are still really necessary, because we have to be able to mine the information in the mind-body system.
Right. Right. And completely agree. That's, we're a system. No matter what our outside changes, our internal system stays the same. It's not like 100% the same as you and I, but it's the same internally. Like there's always, I know that you really look at the gut health. And we'll talk about that in just a second, but it goes to the basic fundamentals. That basic fundamental of, let's look at, and, obviously, this is the reason why I call the podcast The Root of Our Health, is the root cause of what's really inside, and not just on the outside, not just masking whatever is ailing us. And it is life. It's not just health, but it is. And I like how you have the functional nutrition in with the life, in with the aroma. So you have a gamut, like a wide range of tools in your tool belt that you can offer your clients. And it's not just honing in on one thing. It's like, okay, we got the nutrition here, and the going back to the holistic. So your vegetable, just making sure it's real food and not the processed stuff. So doing that, but also what's happening in our life? Is it stress? Is it sleep? Is it, relationships? Is it money? Is it career? Is it so that wheel of life, you weave it into your nutrition. And then, we'll talk a little bit more about the aromatherapy as well, but you infuse that too. And I can just imagine what your clients are feeling after they are complete with the program. Mm-hmm. So, I think in order to capture somebody from head to toe, we have to infuse different modalities. So that's awesome that you do that.
Yeah, I think that the way that in the Western world that we've typically looked at a health case is we're looking at disease states and we're looking at pathology instead, and we're individuating out the different the physical symptoms. The physical systems. So the endocrine system, you go to an endocrinologist, you go to an OBGYN for your reproductive system, you go to a cardiologist for your heart system, you go to a gastroenterologist for your digestive system, on and on, right? A neurologist for your neurological system. In reality, they're all interconnected. And that's what I love about the lens that is the functional lens, because we don't separate them out. We actually use from my functional nutrition lens, we have a matrix that has all the different systems and includes community and spiritual, because that's a part of who we are.
Yep.
And you mentioned that earlier. And our strategy, it doesn't just include food. It includes stress, sleep, community, hydration and nutrition, and movement, because we know that all of those factors will impact all the different systems. Yep. So it really is, you say the systems approach, it is a systems approach. And I think that it's easy to miss how much, and I know this from my own personal experience and working with people, we can never minimize the impact of stress and accumulated stress and what that does to all the different systems in the body. I think that's really important for people to understand that whatever you're experiencing today, it is a combination of everything that you've lived in your life. And in order to come to peace with it and to begin to clear the things, you may be clearing, infection and dysbiosis that's built up in the system. You may be clearing mental attitudes, the way that you've been educated. You might be clearing, inflammation from any perspective. And then when you clear, you can begin to refuel all those systems with really easy, actionable steps.
Yeah. Yeah. And I agree with the going to how stress affects our systems. And I actually want to go into that a little bit since we brought it up. You mentioned that you had adrenal fatigue, correct? You were diagnosed. When was this that you were diagnosed with adrenal fatigue?
That was so my pacemaker was implanted in August of 2011. And I met the doctor who was, really helped me uncover the roots in March of 2012. Okay. And that, we had, and I think it was for sure an hour and a half intake session with her. Mm-hmm. And, as I did the cortisol test, we did a bunch of different tests. So it was probably like 3 months later when I met with her again. So end of spring of 2011 that, we really discovered that was one of the issues, was adrenal fatigue.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I had the same. So it's definitely stress induced. Mm-hmm. A lot of it is stress and some of it was toxicity also. Mm-hmm. But yes, so my question is how did you get through the diagnosis, and has it kind of creeped in your life since then?
Yeah, so that's such a great question. And I'm going to address the strategy, but first I want to speak to, has it crept in?
Mm-hmm.
So this is my experience and understanding of the body. And it starts, actually, Elizabeth, it goes back to my foundational coaching tool called the Body Compass. And that is a coaching tool that Dr. Martha Beck created. That the body is just responding like a dog responds. It's in the moment. The physical body is always in the moment. And it has the software of our DNA. And it's going to respond when you're not moving towards your North Star, when you have a lot of stress. The body's going to respond to different degrees pretty much in the same way. Your responses are going to be different than mine because we're unique. So what I can tell you is that without adrenal fatigue, it does. Like fatigue, I always say, I know when I get tired, I know it's the first sign. It's my body saying, can you slow down, Dana? And so does it creep in? Yes. You know why? It's the language. It is the beautiful communication system from my body, inviting my mind-body system into collaboration, and the body saying, hey, your earth suit right now in this moment needs a little bit of attention. Can you slow down? And so I obey it. So once you know how your body, I don't want to say weakness because I no longer see it as a weakness, but I see it as that communication link. When you understand how your body communicates with you, when things are going great, like keep going in this direction. This is great. Keep going. Or, hey, I need a little bit of attention. I listen now. So I don't think I could, well, I don't know. Life a lot of things can happen in life, but it's hard for me to imagine that I would have adrenal fatigue again, but fatigue is that link of communication that tells me slow down. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, completely. The reason why it makes sense is because I've been going through it myself in a personal manner. Yeah, I'm not sure how your personality is. I am a type A. I basically go, go, go. And if I'm not productive, I feel like I'm being lazy. I do high intensity training. I love the fast pace of life. And I have noticed so it's interesting that I went in front of a functional medicine doctor, an hour and a half, went through all that intake, went through history, went through testing. It's so interesting to understand what your body, how it responds, right? How it responds to what you're doing in life. And it's a wake-up call. Obviously, anybody who goes to the doctor should have a wake-up call because they're there for a reason. If not just like a checkup, but if it's some sort of chronic thing that's happening, they're there for a reason. So it should be a wake-up call, and there should be some way of detecting it and preventing it in going forward. And that's what I like about seeking out functional medicine doctors or integrative doctors, because they're more of let's stop this from happening again. And your understanding, or my understanding also, is the body's response to it. How was I feeling when I did go to the doctor the first time? What prompted me to go here? Because my body was saying something. So all of a sudden, then, a couple years later, it shows up again. And I realize what I'm doing day in and day out. And it's like, whoa, let's take a step back. Now I'm understanding my body saying, I'm wired and tired. I'm irritable. I'm craving, so things that sparked the first time come up and you're able to say, okay, let's slow down. And so how do you do that? How do you slow down?
Yeah. So, listening to you, the framework, the functional nutritional framework I use, we have triggers. Mm-hmm. So I know what triggered this decade of stress. I know, we need to know what are the triggers. A trigger can be an accident, and then cause different things. A trigger can be travel. We travel abroad and that happened to me. We get food poisoning, we get exposed, or we have a parasite. So we need to know the triggers. And then on a day-to-day basis, the mediators. What are the things that make my symptoms better or worse? And when you dial into, and it sounds like you already know your triggers, when you dial into, what makes your symptoms better or worse, it just makes it really easy in the day-to-day to have a strategy.
Right.
And if I go back to what did I do, when I was healing, that 2-year period of healing, I didn't have my functional nutrition training, right? Mm-hmm. That happened in 2015 or 16. That's when I studied functional nutrition. So with my integrative nutritionist, integrative doctor, I decided to take a traditional Chinese medicine approach to healing. Now, I did layer in, because we know with adrenal fatigue, we absolutely need a lot of clean protein. So I layered in some plant protein and I really ramped up my animal clean, lean, wild-caught, grass-fed protein. Mm-hmm. So I was doing that and the leafy greens and just, I've always eaten fairly healthy, but I did have a sugar addiction. So I had to look at the sugar addiction. So that was part of the strategy, but then I did acupuncture once a week. Oh. And that really helped with, I was having a lot of perimenopausal symptoms. So that harmonized my hormones. It helped with sleep. It cleared up this pain that I had in my feet that I didn't even tell my acupuncturist about, but I noticed after 4 sessions, I was like, the pain in my feet, it's gone. We collect a lot of toxins in our feet, by the way, if you just look at how we're standing and where, things tend to flow. So that was very much a part of it, as was HeartMath, the practice of HeartMath, the breathing techniques and understanding how my heart rate variability is connected, can be modulated by the breathing techniques and is connected through my nervous system. So that was a part of that 2 years. There was a daily practice with HeartMath and then the acupuncture and then looking at the food. And then I came to kind of a fork in the road where I realized I wasn't making progress and there was still some fatigue. And a mentor of mine suggested that I really commit myself to resting once a day. Now, mind you, at that time, 2 weeks after my pacemaker was implanted, my oldest daughter went to college. So I was still a mom at home with 4 kids. I did take a break from coaching for a year, but life was still very full. And I was able to hear this mentor. For whatever reason, I was open and I committed myself to resting every day. And that was that seemed to be that next thing I really needed to get my energy back. And so interestingly, and then let's see, a year later, a friend introduced me to light therapy that then I noticed my energy improved. There were just these stages where I kept feeling myself better and better. I would think, oh, well, this is great. And then it was I would learn this technology or tool and it was oh my gosh, I feel even better. Yeah. So, that healing journey, there is this, what I want people to understand, there's a daily commitment to self-care, to deep self-care, and you can keep feeling better and better as you continue down that road of self-care where you're learning about when I say complex, it is complexities of the mind-body system, but actually accessing it is pretty easy. It's complex. The system is complex, but the access is easy.
Right. Right. And yeah, beautifully said. And I want to kind of go back to what you said about HeartMath. And so can you explain a little bit more about this? I don't know if it's a process or can just explain a little bit more about how HeartMath.
I will. Yeah. So HeartMath, when I use the word HeartMath, just to position it, it is a research institute in California. Okay. And they have been researching heart rate variability and its connection to the nervous system and your emotions for decades. And they have technology that allows you to track your heart rate variability. And then you train yourself with their breathing techniques. And you can see when you have their technology, you can see it. When I did it, it was on my laptop. And, I was connected to my laptop, and it was, the software that was a little more complicated than today. It's an app based, and you connect it to your earlobe, and it's Bluetooth, and it's super easy. But you get to see how when you're using the breathing techniques, you see your heart rate variability fall into coherence. Because what they've taught us, what I've learned from them, is that your heart rate variability, the uptick and the downtick, if you look at an echocardiogram, that is your heart rate variability. It should be even. And you can see me using my hands to visualize the uptick and the downtick are roughly the same. It's slow, and there should be a wide distance. A healthy heart rate variability has a wide distance between the top up and the bottom. And when we're babies, it's the widest. And if you visualize flatlining, when somebody is no longer, when the, human body is finished on this earth, there's a flat line. Well, there's no heart rate variability. There's no distance between, because there's the flat line and the heart is finished, the body is finished. So you can train using HeartMath. You can train the heart rate variability to have that, those qualities of regularity and greater distance and slow. Now, if you are trained, you can see the different emotions that you experience and how it impacts your heart rate variability. It's all connected, Elizabeth, through the vagus nerve, which is the longest nerve in the body. And, it starts in the brain and it moves, through the spine, down through all the organs, going into the heart, going all the way down to the stomach, and then sending messages. It is the messenger in the body sending messages between all those organs and the brain to, hey, do this, do that. We need this, we need that. We're feeling this. So it's a very interesting communication system in the body. And that includes the heart rate variability. And so heart rate variability, what is it? It is the electrical conduction of the heart, and that can be measured on devices. The electrical conduction of your heart, it's measured on devices. It can be measured how far it goes from the body. Your brain waves barely leave your body, and your heart waves they can go across a room. How abundant and robust are the electrical conduction of your heart. It's what connects us to one another. Mm. When you walk into a room or you're with somebody, you feel something from that person. Mm-hmm. That is the electrical conduction of your heart. And we know from HeartMath the power, the intelligence that resides in the heart waves, the information that we gain from our heart. And that's part of what you learn with HeartMath tools, is how to access the intelligence and the insights from your heart.
Interesting. Very interesting. Because what you just described, it sounds like if I was to go into a room and there was this vibe of, it was not a nice feeling, it's like you go in and it's very, very angst. I would assume that everybody in there had their hearts kind of like beating a little bit faster, not into this, like, you know, that wavelength that you were describing. Now, if you go into, and I'm just throwing it out there, like a yoga studio, right? And everybody's heart is kind of like going like this, and you're just feeling more calmer. You're feeling more, you know, like it's just a happier environment.
Yeah, it's entrainment. And we can actually, and I have experienced this with my own, like as a mom, and just you know, relative to like working with a client, in training with the heart, with the power of my heart, the electrical conduction of my heart to impact other people and, you know, the mood in a room. Or I can remember being in an emergency situation with one of my daughters. She fell and her nose literally lifted off her face, like the skin of her nose, it lifted off her face.
Oh, wow.
And we were in like the emergency office of a plastic surgeon to just temporarily get it sewn back on her face. And how the scariness of all that. And I knew my HeartMath at that time, and I was totally freaked out, but I'm like, no, I need to be the leader here. And the surgeon was a child whisperer. And in addition, I used my my breathing techniques, the HeartMath breathing techniques, to bring that sense of calm to the situation. That is the power we have when we own our mind-body system and the power that resides within it.
Yes. Yes. And you talked about, really quick, I'm just going to not harp on, or, you know, stay on this topic for so long, but you talked about the breathing. And I've done this with my clients as well. I focus a lot with my clients on stress management. Mm-hmm. And one client, just in memory, she was all like, yeah, I did this. I did, and this person did this, and so stressed out, even like, you know, the first second that we got on. And I said, let's just do some breathing exercises. And we did that deep breathing, the 4 count in, hold 4, and then 6, or, you know, count out through the mouth. And then, you know, doing that a few times. The transition from that first second that, you know, she was on to after that was a 180. Because, and you know this, and in HeartMath, I'm sure it does this as well. It slows down that nervous system.
It does. Yeah. I mean, I would love to share with your listeners 2 HeartMath techniques.
Yeah.
Because they're just so easy. And it is, so we know this from the work of Dr. Andrew Weil, a healthy breath is in and out through the nose. It's deep, it's slow, it's quiet, and it's regular. That's not HeartMath. That's the work of Dr. Andrew Weil. Those are the 4 qualities of a healthy breath: deep, slow, quiet, regular. The HeartMath breathing techniques, they're visualization. So you visualize the inhale and exhale to flow to and from the heart center. Simple listeners, you can join us. Visualize the inhale and exhale to flow to and from the heart center. You're visualizing that inhale and exhale flowing to and from the heart. I just felt a shift. I don't know if you could feel that. I just felt this shift as I brought myself into heart focused breathing. It's called heart focused breathing. And then the second one I'll share is inner ease technique. So you have your heart focused breathing in and out from the heart center. You draw in the feeling of inner ease. We know, like I just felt everything kind of drop in. We know what inner ease feels like. You're just like in flow, and you visualize the feeling of inner ease to flow to and from the heart center. That just slowed the breath down again. You feel it in all of your body. What does inner ease feel like in your body? You draw that up. Visualize the inhale and exhale to flow to and from the heart center with the feeling of inner ease. 2 very simple breathing techniques from HeartMath that you can do when you're driving, when you're upset, when you're talking to somebody. Very, very simple to call upon those techniques, and to shift from being triggered to being even neutral, or to moving yourself in terms of the chemicals that get released in your system, to releasing healthy hormones, healthy chemicals. It begins to shift how the nervous system is responding. You can do that when you want to be focused and you've got a project you're working on. You can draw in that feeling of inner ease to just bring coherence to your mental clarity. Very powerful.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. Yes, thank you. And I'm hoping that my audience does do that on a daily basis. I know I will be. Does it kind of slow it down a little bit? Take that pause. So thank you so much for sharing that. And Dana, I just want to thank you again for taking the time today to talk about your background, who you are, how you got into what you're doing. And so first off, who should reach out to you and how can they reach out to you?
Thank you. Thank you, Elizabeth. So, anyone can reach out to me. You can find me on my podcast, Vitally You, Feeling Younger While Growing Older. You can find me on Instagram, Dana Frost, Vitally You. Can find me on my website, danafrost.com. I am working with bringing on 5 new clients for 2023. And actually, I'm almost at 5, but I'm not quite. So if anyone is listening to this and they're like, I want to be your client, send me an email, dana@danafrost.com. Those are the ways you can sign up for my email as well. I have a free download, Tips to Daily Vitality. It's an ebook. And you sign up for that on my website. I can also share a link for the show notes.
Yes, please do. I will link everything in the show notes. It'll be easier to click or also easier to go to your website. But yes, people, please do, sign up and join this program. So thank you so much, Dana. One last question that I have for you is if you could share maybe a favorite quote or any words of inspiration to me and my audience.
Oh, wow. You know what I want to say is you can heal. That is within your possibility. Whatever you are experiencing, what keeps you up at night? What are the symptoms that you experience on a daily basis that nag at you, that keep you from feeling complete vitality? There's so much information in your system and you can access it. And it really is within your reach to feel younger while growing older. It's within your reach to bring your vitality back. I don't know the age of your audience, but what I'm seeing is that younger and younger people have complex health issues that I did not see, when I was in high school, in my 20s, I'm 56, I didn't see younger people having the complex issues that we see today, and really believe in your own capacity to take dominion over your health and to feel your own vitality.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. And a great way to end this episode. So thank you so much, Dana, for being on here. And to my audience, have a wonderful day.